Hi guys, welcome back. Today's lesson is on finding the volume of composite figures. Composite figures is just a fancy word for more than one shape at a time, and you just add the volumes together. No big deal. Alright, so we're still going to use the same reference sheet, so have this out, make sure you know where to look for your formulas. And here's my first example. So this example has a cylinder and a hemisphere. Wasn't quite sure it was a hemisphere. It looks a little warped to me, but it says that it's a hemisphere and a cylinder. So we look up the two formulas, cylinder and hemisphere. We don't have a hemisphere formula, but you could have written it and added it to your reference sheet. Remember, a hemisphere is half of a sphere, so this 4/3, when it's a hemisphere, it just turns into 2/3 pi r cubed. Okay, so I'm going to find the volume of my cylinder and the volume of the hemisphere and just add those two together. Okay, cylinder is pi r squared h, pi r squared h, so that's 3.14. The radius is 2, square that you'd get 4, times the height of just the cylinder, which is 9. So multiply that together. 9 times 4 is 36, and then 36 times 3.14. Now, I've been using 3.14 instead of the pi button. Usually you need to read the directions to know which one of those things to do, but I'm using 3.1 for all of these. If you use the pi button, your answers will be a little different than mine, but actually more accurate. Usually on a test, it'll tell you what to use. Okay, so that I get 113.04. That's just the volume of the cylinder if I were to fill up this part. Okay? All right, now the hemisphere. That one's going to be 2/3 pi r cubed. So 3.14 times r. Well, the radius of the hemisphere is the same as the radius of the cylinder since it's sitting right on top of it. So that's still 2, and we got to cube it. 2 cubed would be 8, and I'm going to multiply the 8 times 3.14 times 2 divide by 3. And I get approximately 16.746 repeating. Take that answer that's still in your calculator and add it to the 113.04. And then round at the end. And I get my final answer for the total volume to be 129 point, it says round to the nearest tenth, so 0.8 cubic centimeters. Okay, you may want to hit pause now and do number 1 of your worksheet. Okay, number 2. This one has a cylinder and 2 cones, which are different heights, by the way. You've got to carefully notice that. So we need the formulas for cylinder and a cone. So look those up on your reference sheet. Cylinder and cone. All right, now, again, notice that the height of the 2 cones, those 2 heights are different. So you're going to have 1 cylinder and 2 different cone formulas. So we have a cylinder plus the cone on the left plus the cone on the right. Okay? The cylinder is pi r squared h. So that's going to be 3.14 times the radius, which is 5 squared, times the height of just the cylinder, which is 14. I'm going to go ahead and figure that out. 5 squared is 25, so it's 25 times 14 times 3.14, which is 1,099 for the cylinder. The cone on the left, the volume is 1/3 pi r squared h, so it's 1/3 pi r squared h. So that's 1/3, 3.14. The radius is still the same radius, 5. And the height of the cone on the left is 10. Okay, so 5 squared is 25. 25 times 10 is 250. Then I'm going to multiply by the 3.14 and divide by the 3. So I get 261.6 repeating for the cone on the left. Okay, now the cone on the right, same formula. So it's 1/3 pi, which is 3.14. The radius is still 5. Square it's going to be 25. and the height of the cone on the right, which is 6. Okay, so put all that in my calculator. 5 squared is 25. 25 times 6 times 3.14 and divide by 3. And I get 157. Now just add up those 3 separate volumes to get the total volume. So 157 plus 199 plus 261.6 repeating. And it says to round to the nearest tenth. So I'm going to call that 1,517.7 cubic centimeters. Okay, you may want to pause the video and do number 2 of your worksheet. Okay, number 3. We have the volume of a box, which is always easy. It's just length times width times height. But there is a formula. You can look it up. And then the volume of a cylinder, but notice it's only half of the cylinder. So here's your 2 formulas. We're going to have, I'm just going to call it a box. I know it's supposed to be a rectangular prism, whatever. We're going to find the volume of the box. Oops, did it again. Hit the wrong button. Sorry, give me a minute. Okay, volume of the box plus half the volume of the cylinder. So you got to remember the 1/2 or divide by 2 at the end. Okay, so the volume of the box is length times width times height. That's easy. 7 times 10 times 4. So 10 times 4 is 40 times 7, that's 280. Piece of cake. Volume of the cylinder, I'm going to use this formula, but put a 1/2 in front or divide by 2 at the end. So 1/2 of pi times the radius squared. The radius is right here. So this whole length on the bottom here is 7. So our radius is 3.5, half of 7. The height of the cylinder would be the length connecting the 2 bases. So this is the height of the cylinder, which is 10. There you go. Put all that into your calculator. 3.5 squared times 10 times 3.14 and divide by 2. I get 192.3. Add that to the 280. And this time it says rounded to the nearest whole number. So my final answer is going to be 472 cubic centimeters. Okay? Hit pause if you want to do number 3 of your worksheet. Number 4, pretty much the same idea as the last one. I've got a rectangular box, easy, length times width times height, and a pyramid. And remember, volume formula for a pyramid that we learned in the past was this, where capital B stood for area of the base. Well, if the base is a rectangle, then the area of the base is just length times width. So you can change the formula on your reference sheet to this one if you'd rather, as long as it's a rectangular bottom or a square. All right, so I have the box plus the pyramid. The box is easy, length times width times height, so that's 4 times 3 times 2, which is 24. The pyramid, anything that comes to a point has a 1/3, so the pyramid is 1/3. Area of the base, which is 4 times 3, times the height of the pyramid, which is 1.5. Okay, put that into your calculator. This is 4 times 3, which is 12, times 1.5 and divide by 3. 12 times 1.5 divide by 3, and I get 6. So add those two together and you get a nice even 30 cubic feet. Hit pause if you would like to do number 4 now. Okay, last one. Read it carefully though. This one, they've basically drilled out a shape. So we started with the volume of a box, which is always easy, length times width times height. So that's 9 times 9 times 9. But what they did was take this cone and drill it out of the box. That means if they take it away from the box, that means we have to subtract the volume of the cone. Okay, formula for the volume of a cone. Wrong button again. I keep doing that. Formula for the volume of a cone is 1/3 area of the base times the height. So it's 1/3 area of the base is pi r squared times the height of the cone. So 1/3 times 3.14. The radius of the cone goes all the way to the edge of the box. So it's half of 9 or 4.5. And the height of the cone, it goes all the way from the top to the bottom of the box, so the height of it is 9. Okay, so 4.5 squared times 9 times 3.14 and divide by 3. That's the volume of the cone that we're going to be subtracting. 9 cubed, 9 times 9 times 9 is 729. And again, we're subtracting because they took this volume away from the outside shape. So it's the outside shape minus what we took out, 190.755. And rounded to the nearest tenth, that'd be 538.2 cubic feet. I think this lesson was pretty easy. I hope you guys did too. Good luck. Here is your assignment. Happy Monday.